Today we're going to talk about the Captify search intelligence platform, but I'll start by giving a brief introduction to Captify for those people that aren't familiar with us already. Okay. So Captify is based right here in Covent Garden. We are about 80 people worldwide. We have offices in Kiev, we have offices in Germany, in Hamburg, and we have offices in Paris. We are building a search intelligence platform which provides programmatic advertising through most of the major agency groups, hundreds of agencies, and we have been around for about 4.5 years. What I want to talk to you about today, though, is search and the way that we interpret the meaning of search. We talked about our search intelligence platform. We have billions, we have about 3 billion searches per month. And that's a lot of data to try and make intention and awareness of and understand what it means. We, traditionally, people looked at the keywords of search, and we want to talk about why keywords are very difficult to use. If you think about keywords, they provide an insight into individual words and not necessarily the meaning. And you're constantly balancing between trying to make sure you have enough reach by being a little bit vague and a little bit expansive, but also accuracy. As you get more reach and you try and use different variants of words, you become less accurate. So Captify realized that this was not a real scalable way to look at search and search intelligence, and we built the Captify intelligence platform. Okay, so when we built this, we thought about the major components. There are 3 sort of core components to our platform. We have vocabulary, and vocabulary is all about words, and we said that matching words isn't necessarily the most efficient and best way to approach search, but it is the core of what search strings are and what search means. So it's important to build that vocabulary. We look at context, because when humans understand the meaning of search, and the meaning of talking to each other, they look at the context of words and meaning around those phrases as they're doing it. So context is very important as we think about search and what it means. And then finally, the connections. The connections between different words actually tells us a lot about what we should be doing with them and how to drive intent for advertisers. Okay? So we'll start with vocabulary. We were recently at the De Mexico conference, and there's always a hard time getting hotels in De Mexico. So we thought this was a good example of a typical search. Here, there are 3 components of our vocabulary that we're interested in. We have a thesaurus of synonyms in our platform, which allows us to expand from the individual keywords to a combination of words that have the same meaning. That allows us to really improve our understanding of the words there. We have a spelling correction, which does stemming of words and correct spelling so that we make sure that we're understanding the word that people have typed in. Often people are, particularly online and in search, they rush, they don't think about how they're spelling, and they're not taking care. So we correct those up front. And then finally, we have a dictionary of objects. This is really a feed of data that comes from a variety of areas. You have places, you have people, brands, and you have products that come in and make us have an understanding of the world and words in that world. These 3 things together provide structure to the search and allow us to understand it in a better way. Once we have that platform of words, we also, because we're an international company, we need to make it multilingual. So we have language detection in our platform, which allows us to understand the language of a search, and we use that before we start breaking down the search and the meaning of it. So we built our vocabulary. We then move on to the context of words and searches. Now, originally, people just search for a word in search when they're doing search targeting, and they might search for something like Paris. Well, this is very ambiguous. They could be looking for places to stay in Paris. They could be looking for travel in Paris, the history of Paris. We don't really know what they're looking for. So the word Paris alone isn't generally sufficient for us to do search targeting. We can add to that the thesaurus we talked about earlier to try and understand different variants of words and get better reach. So if they're looking for a hotel in Paris, they may search for something like Hilton. And all of a sudden, we know that they're looking for a Hilton, but in abstract, we know that they're looking for a Hilton. We don't know where they're looking for. We don't know, what type of what time they're looking for or when. Now, those two words together, often people just say, okay, well, we'll search for both words. We'll search for Hilton and Paris. And then, of course, you end up with Paris Hilton, and you've got confusion. You've got confusion because Paris Hilton is a person, but we're looking for a hotel. But we can use context now because we've seen that they were previously searching for TMZ or Justin Bieber. We know this person is somebody who's looking for celebrity information. And because we're bringing the context into that search, we understand what we should be looking for. Change that phrase just very slightly, and you have a Hilton in Paris. The two words are exactly the same, but the meaning is completely different. The prepositions that we removed earlier, and a lot of people do remove when they're doing search targeting, are vitally important to understand the context here. The phrases that people have prior searched for, things to do in Paris and trains to Paris, are very important because it helps us understand that they are looking for this type of context. And then, of course, the location of the user is very important because now we know that they're looking for a hotel in Paris. We can use that to maybe look at travel advertising or whatever other types of advertising we do. So the context here of the phrase here, the Hilton in Paris. This page here has one small search phrase, but it has a lot of context that we can use to help us understand what we should be looking for. Okay, the final piece is connections. Now, if we think about connections between words, we use these in a lot of ways when we do search targeting and we do programmatic advertising. The most obvious one is what we think of as sort of opposites or competitors. If somebody's searching for BMW and BMW brands and phrases and terms, well, that's interesting to think about Audi, Mercedes, all the competitors of that brand, and they may want to target those competitors. They don't want to just target the people that are interested in their products. They want to target the people that are showing interest in their competitors' products. Another type of connections is intent connections. So if somebody's searching for flights to Barcelona, we know they're looking for travel. So we know they've got an interest in travel. We know that they might be looking for trains to Gatwick to get that flight to Barcelona. There's a lot of related terms that we can use to drive intent and really build up a more robust profile of what this person is trying to search for and what this person's interest is. We talked about how audiences are more important than specific targeting. By building up these relations and these contexts, we really build an understanding of what the user is about and what they're thinking about. And then the final one that we use more and more, actually, is non-intuitive connections. We recently did a big campaign for a large financial company who was trying to drive personal loans. And we saw a huge connection between personal loans and pet owners. Now, there's no way we would know that from manually looking at the phrases or the results. It's too much data. But by using the algorithm for looking for correlations between performance and the types of search and the intent of the search, it means that we can really drive more interesting targeting to groups of users that we never would have usually found. And this is bringing them in from outside and top of the funnel right down so that we're capturing and increasing the reach for retargeting or even straight through the funnel. Okay. So we now understand the context and the meaning of these searches, these billions of searches in real time. When we built this platform at first, it was for real-time targeting of ads. But what we found was it provides great intent and an insight into brand analytics. So we use it now to help us provide top brands with really interesting brand analytics. I'll show you a couple of examples. We do a lot of brand analytics, but these are just a couple of the examples. First one is brand trend, the strength of your brand trend. It could be a negative or a positive, but over time we see that the BMW strength is going up, and you can plot that against the competitive ranking. So you understand how your brand is doing compared to others and how it's changing over time. It may change to events, or it may change to various targeting. Another example that we use is brand attributes. Now, because we're looking at search data and the meaning of that data, we can see what attributes are correlating to the brand. In this example, you can see that people are finding the BMW brand exclusive and attractive, but not necessarily so heavy on the value side. This is really interesting for brands to understand better what people are saying about their brand and what they're searching for, and less about thinking about surveys and such like, which don't have good reach. We have huge reach by looking at our great data network. And then finally, I'll show you the last one, which is campaign effectiveness. Now, this is multi-channel effectiveness. Offline advertising has very poor mechanisms for looking at effectiveness. But by looking at the search impact, we can see if share of search goes up, if positive search goes up, how it does against those competitors, all those things we talked about before. And we can do it over time while you're running banner ads, while you're running radio, while you're running TV slots. And we can see how they impact your brand over time and put those together.